An iPad in the River, Severance wraps Season 2, and the perfect desktop color. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by the new MacVoices Discord, available to all of our MacVoices patrons. Sign up and join in the conversation in your new favorite online group at patreon.com/MacVoices. Hey, Jeff, if you decide to kill anyone, don't throw your iPad in the river afterwards.
I had a feeling you're going to pitch this one at me.
Yeah, well, it just seemed to be such a natural fit. This is from Apple Insider, and talks about a 6-year investigation into an organized crime ring and evidence that came from an iPad that had been submerged in the Thames for years. This is just another one of those things that fascinates me, that somebody found this and it was still functioning to the degree that they could get the information out. And it was apparently very, very critical information.
From what I understand, it wasn't actually the iPad. It was the SIM card in the iPad.
Okay.
Right. So, I mean, still that's pretty significant.
They just got the number off the SIM card, and then they were able to look up the call history.
Yeah, there was some data on the SIM too, but they could look up a bunch of stuff just based on having the number from the SIM. I think that the big takeaway here is if you want to really make sure that the iPad that you used in a string of serious crimes doesn't come back to bite you at a later point, you need to first burn the iPad, then put what's left into an acid bath, and then take what's left of that, and then maybe mix it with concrete or something, and set a new case on for your porch.
Or maybe just don't throw it in a river in view of London's ubiquitous security cameras.
Right. Well, in this case, it wasn't the cameras specifically that got them. It was a line in someone's testimony or statement.
I thought I read that they had camera that they saw that he'd thrown something, and they thought it was going to be a gun or something.
Someone had said that they had stopped on a certain street along the Thames and gotten out of the car. So I don't know if there was camera footage to go along with it, but it started from someone's testimony. And yes, and you're right. They thought they were going to find a gun, and they found an iPad. I guess the alternate thing you could do is don't commit crimes.
There's that. I hadn't thought of that.
If you can't do the time.
There you go.
Yeah. But, I do want to point out, Jeff, you were questioning why I picked on you for this. Your description of what to do if you were going to do something like this was clearly well thought out and quite extensive.
You're not going to believe this, but that was literally off the top of my head.
That's scarier.
What a surprise.
That's even scarier, that your head works that way, that efficiently, that quickly.
Even when I'm sick.
Even when you're sick. Eric, you bring up a good question, though.
Yeah, it's like, would it have worked with a digital SIM? It was not totally clear if it was just like the serial number on the card that did it for him, and I don't know if you can get anything off of digital SIMs if there's enough corrosion, or if it's more encrypted, or I have no idea. Kind of curious. But
now I'm curious now too.
Well, is corrosion, isn't a digital SIM just I always thought that was just like a place in memory. I didn't think that there was an actual sim, physical sim that would be in there because it's a digital
think you're
sim,
right,
so
Chuck.
therefore it's not a physical. Yeah.
But I'm assuming that if it's been sitting there for a while, you probably can't boot up the iPad.
Well, of course, memory is physical. And Eric, they, I don't know if they would have gone to this, but there have been, you could go in and with X-ray microscope and look at, read data off of chips and stuff, even if it's not working.
Get desolder a chip from a board, put it in something else, and then try and read what's on that chip. And there's all kinds of crazy stuff they can do. And when I say they, I mean Jim. He's who I always go to for my forensic analysis.
So another reason to wait for Apple's new communication chip, because I'm sure somehow it'll be harder.
All right. Everyone hold off on major crimes until the new chip comes out.
Yeah. Marty, it looks like you're working now for Apple marketing.
Yeah, why not just take this to an advantage and say that Apple keeps your data safe underwater for 6 years versus, Android?
Can your Fire tablet pass the Thames test? Our iPads do.
I really want to know who manufactured the SIM chip. That's the missing piece of information from this. If this was an O2 or other sort of
yeah,
right.
Wow. Don't know. Severance has wrapped up and has also received a renewal for season 3. And so we were off. We were dark because of the darkness when Severance wrapped, and so I wanted to see what everybody's thoughts were about it wrapping, and does it feel like there can be a season 3 that would continue the story, or are they going to have to punch out a new storyline?
There can definitely be a season 3. And I can't really elaborate on that without offering up spoilers.
Yeah, please don't. I haven't seen it yet.
And yes, I'm not going to offer up spoilers, but there are questions that are presented to us in that last episode, and I think that that Ben Stiller and his crew, they have a path that they're following, and they gave us an ending to season 2 that gives them a nice setup for season 3. And but at the same time, without offering spoilers, had it ended where it did, I think people would have been frustrated, but at the same time, it could have been an ending. And you're muted, Chuck.
Sorry, you were happier. I felt like it was, I don't want to say a wrap up to the story, but maybe I just didn't pay enough of attention and think about what could they do with season 3. So it wasn't exactly a surprise because you felt like they were going to continue to ride this horse for a while. It was so popular. Brian, I thought you were going to.
I could rattle off a bunch of stuff they could do, but I'm not going to because spoiler, sweetie.
Yeah. Sweetie.
All the Doctor Who fans, they just flipped right now.
Oh, okay. Brian, you were shaking your head so excited, like I was afraid you're going to hurt yourself. You seem to be really excited about a season 3 of Severance.
I love it. It's such a great series, and I think what was so important too is hopefully we won't have as much separation in time between the 2 seasons. Season 1 to season 2 was quite a long time, and then hopefully season 2 to 3 isn't quite so long. And there was different reasons why between the writers' strike and so forth with the between the first 2 seasons, and hopefully we'll be able to enjoy it soon enough.
it seemed like, if I remember correctly, there were a lot of extenuating circumstances, not the least of which was the pandemic. That
Writer's strike. It's a
Yeah.
big problem.
That's right. That's right. So they dodged that bullet because the fans stayed loyal. I'm not sure if it happens again, if they drag it out for years, that they would stay as loyal.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Marty?
Can I ask?
Oh,
I know where you are, Brian. I'm having trouble getting into it, but I'm still in season 1. Is everyone still think it's the greatest thing since ER? You know, it's.
I finished season 1. I haven't started season 2 yet, but I thought it was a good series. It had some strangeness to it, but I was getting into it.
It reminds me so much of the Truman Show. You know.
I can see
okay,
some
yeah.
parallels. Yeah.
yeah.
I could see that.
Okay.
I know for me, one thing that helped, I ended up watching the first season a total of 3 times. I watched it at home with my wife, and then my dad and I watched it when we were up at their cabin, and then I watched it again when I was visiting my brother-in-law. So it's one of those type of shows sometimes I think that you notice things that you may have not noticed before. And then it's also one of those shows that after subsequent episodes, and if you go back and you watch an earlier episode, the specific line of dialogue was specifically very chosen that you thought was just, a throwaway line that really wasn't. And so I think some of those types of things really made me connect with it even more.
And Webb, I'll throw in, I've gone up and down with Severance. I for a while I thought it was brilliant. Then it got a little slow in places. Then it picked back up, and the slowness was justified. And then the second season, it hit a couple rough spots for me. But in the end, I really, really did enjoy it and was glad I'd spent the time to pay attention. I apparently was not paying as much attention as Brian was, because I cannot say, unlike some other series where I've had that experience, where one line, a season and a half ago became a pivotal piece of information. But even so, I still feel like I enjoyed it and would recommend you taking a shot at it.
Yeah, I thoroughly
I'll
enjoyed
turn it on
both
right now. You
seasons.
guys can watch me watch it.
Cool.
Yeah. Then we can make fun of you. Marty?
Yeah, I'm real interested in how the production with this goes, because I know they've done with other series where they have a successful series. They know they're going to go into another season, and they just kind of contract with the actors to continue on instead of giving them breaks. It's almost as if the actors would prefer to get the job done 2 seasons over one shorter period of time than it interrupting other projects that they might have going. They can jump from that project to another. I mean, you mentioned all of the interruptions that occurred between season 1 and season 2. And I've seen some shows that have been renewed going, we're just going to do all the filming for both seasons now, as a way for actors to be involved and stay involved without having any other conflicts in their way.
Yeah. Since Brian, I'll ask you just to add your comment before we move on. And that it was a comment about slow horses.
Yeah. Sometimes, if you watch something for the first time, and depending on where you're at, in life and what's going on and how focused you are on the show and letting other distractions get in the way, you may or may not, you may have a different interpretation of it if you rewatch something. And that was something with Slow Horses in my viewing. I watched the first season when it came out, and for me, it was okay, but I also knew that I wasn't fully invested in paying attention to it as close as I should have. And I know, Chuck, your recommendations of it, I said, I'm going to go ahead and give it another try. And I watched all season 1 again. I loved it. and then binged season 2 and was really focused when I was watching it. Really enjoyed it, and yeah, definitely going to look at the next couple seasons on my list.
Yeah, Slow Horses was one
Good.
that I had no trouble getting into and staying very much engaged.
Mm-hmm.
Great. It's a great show.
So while we're still on Apple TV, there's not a lot of meat to this story from Apple World Today, but there's been a disclosure that Apple Original Films has concluded a negotiation for a UFO disclosure package from Joe Kosinski and Jerry Bruckheimer, which I think this is going to be really interesting. The only thing, this particular article makes it sound like it's going to be a fictionalized series. A couple other things I've read sort of led me down the path that it was supposed to be a bit more of a nonfiction series. So take it for what it's worth. But those are some pretty good names in storytelling, especially genre storytelling of any kind. So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of this. Although no casting has been done, it looks like there's nothing other than just contracts have been inked. So, anybody else like this idea? It seems
I'm
somewhat
interested.
timely.
I mean, I'm interested, and it looks like Bruckheimer has an interest in Apple TV after doing F1, which is, I guess, coming out, and now they're looking at doing more work with Apple. So
It seems like Apple has developed a reputation for being good to work with, because they sure do seem to land an awful lot of
Unless you're Jon Stewart.
Well, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and Jon Stewart is Jon Stewart, and so but from a more pure TV standpoint, it just seems like that they are able to land a lot of people in a positive fashion. So, I threw
have
this
a question.
Oh, please, Jeff.
I'm totally derailing us.
No, go.
Under the guise, excuse me, of Apple TV Plus shows. You remember, I don't know, 3 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, there's all this discussion, and it's like big news about the TV series that Ronald D. Moore was developing for Apple TV Plus. It was a sci-fi sort of time travel thing it's like a man and his daughter who get thrown into the wrong time and then have to cope with all of that. And was just going crazy because this is the Ronald D. Moore property. It's going to be the big thing. Have I just completely missed hearing any more news about that, or did it just fizzle out? I'm going to go with fizzled out. Oh, you're muted, Chuck.
Trying not to cough at you. I don't even remember that, Jeff. I don't remember anything about it.
Well, we are humans, memory like a goldfish. So no, I remember that was a big thing. There was like all of these shows that that were coming up, and all of these big names attached to them, and Ronald D. Moore, that was going to be like his big thing on Apple TV.
Or wasn't? I mean, he was For All Mankind on Apple TV.
But that was a different one.
Okay, I will continue to look for it, but I'm not finding anything.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's I mean, look, Marty gave us a link to stuff he's produced, and I mean he's done For All Mankind. He did Outlander. I mean, this almost sounds like it's a cross between Outlander and For All Mankind.
Chat room, anybody out there know what Jeff's talking about, or is he hallucinating again?
Again, you say again.
Yes.
And that could
Oh.
be still.
Still perpetually. Yeah. Yeah. We'll do some follow up on that, Jeff, and see if, because again, a quick Google didn't give me anything. Because I Googled Ronald D. Moore Apple TV time travel and came up with nothing. So.
Well, if I come across anything, I'll report back to you.
Okay. Yeah, please do. Please do. Let's see. How I messed my process up here. Sorry. So I'm curious. This is just one of those weird little things that came across my desk from the OWC blog. And basically it talks about just using a single color as your desktop as a method to help you focus. And I'm just curious to see if anybody's tried this. I took one of my laptops and did it, and okay. I mean, but to be fair, I've never been a big, let's change my desktop picture every 10 minutes or anything like that. So, I pick a desktop picture and I pretty much stick with it, and that's it. So, Marty, did you just raise your hand?
Yeah, I switched my desktop. I didn't switch it very, very often, wallpapers, but I've got 3 monitors, and I had this nice cinematic piece that went across all 3 that was the Chicago lakefront. I thought that was really great, but I've got icons smattered all over my desktop, and sometimes that icon lands in a place where my visual acuity is not very good to figure out what it is. So then when I started doing video in terms of podcasting and such, there was so much screen glare coming off on my glasses that I've changed all of my backgrounds to black. So it's a solid black background, and it's easier for me to pick up objects on my screen, and it reduces the glare, the brightness coming up against my glasses. So yeah, when I read this article, it was first, all I saw was the title. I'm like, okay, what's the tip going to be? And then when he talked about just changing it to a solid color, it's like, yeah, I get that.
Okay. Jeff, you say you've been a single color desktop guy for years?
A super
know
long
that.
time. Yeah. And so when I read this piece, and keep in mind, I'm still not feeling great. I read the piece and I'm like, are you fracking kidding me? How many words did they spend on this? Doesn't everyone know this? What the hell? So, okay, but in retrospect, meaning over this afternoon after I read the piece, it occurred to me that I don't use my desktop the way a lot of people do, because I'm often doing some sort of image editing. And so if you have a bunch of other colors on your desktop, that can have an impact on how you perceive the colors you're working on. So you want to have neutral colors. You don't want to have patterns or pictures, just a neutral color. And so years ago, I settled on a color which was wrong, but it worked for me. And it's this very subdued bluish gray color. And because it had the bluish in it, that was still going to have an impact on how I would perceive other colors on my desktop. But it was the compromise for me between having a totally neutral desktop and having a little bit of color, which I wanted. Yeah, this for me, I cannot grasp wanting to have pictures on your desktop, patterns all over your desktop. It's distracting, and it screws up how you perceive what you're looking at on your desktop. So I've been a single flat color, not even like let me make a graphic that's the color that I want, although I'm probably going to have to do that now. Thanks, Apple, for screwing that up with 15.4 update. Side note, on 15.4, if you have set a solid color that's custom, meaning not one of the default colors Apple offers you, it forces your desktop color to white. Not even the white, off-whitish that you can select in their color palette for desktop colors. It's just straight up FFFFFF white. And which is basically like, hey, let's burn your retinas out. Surprise. So you have to choose for now from their colors until they choose to fix the bug, or make a graphic that's the color that you actually want, and then use that as a custom image. So you could probably do it like a 1 pixel by 1 pixel, and then say stretch to fill, and there you go. But yeah, the whole idea of using something that's not just a flat neutral color as a desktop, to me, just seems kind of crazy. But I know that's what most people do.
Eric, are you going to make your desktop crocus yellow?
No.
Okay.
No. Although, I think phone maybe. But yeah, I always pick like river rocks or forest scenes, because I line up my icons along the trunks of the trees, or I pile them on different boulders, so I remember what's in that pile and what's in my desk is piles. So my desktop is piles. And it's only a problem. Sad. Yeah, well, and it's only a problem if my picture changes, and then the piles are all messed up, and yeah.
Okay.
And then occasionally I get annoyed, and then I put the year and the month, and I take everything on my desktop, pick it all up, put it in that folder, and then stick the folder next to the other year month folder and start over again.
Okay. Well, Jim, it sounds like you and Barry and the chat room and I share at least some of the same philosophy, because even though I have a desktop picture that I really like, most of the time I don't see it because I have too many windows open on all the monitors to really appreciate it. So my only time to look at my desktop picture is when I restart the machine. But I'm intrigued by Eric's idea of stacking things along tree trunks and on top of rocks and all. Is it Is it a dimensional thing, Eric, or is it just makes
it
you
just
happy?
helps me remember what's in the different piles. You know, I used to do mountains, and then all along the ridge of the mountain, all the way across my desktop, I had, you know, stacks of icons, and didn't put anything on the mountain, just on the edge of the mountain.
All right, here you go. Take your screenshot, and now you have two piles that you can work with. Is it left hand or right hand?
Should have put one hand a little higher than the other, so the bigger pile could weight down the.
Oh, here you go.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
Okay, now Jeff, if we can just get you to go blindfold yourself, and you'll be like Lady Justice, you know, with scales.
How about this?
No.
I mean, I don't have a blindfold handy. I'm sorry. Unlike Dave, I don't have everything in the world within hand's reach at my desk. Dave, if you had reached out and grabbed it, Webb, you are my hero. That is fantastic.
No, I don't want to know why you have a blindfold at that handy, Webb. Nope, just
I do.
We're moving on to the next story.
I want a diagram.
Okay,
what's Eric pulling out of this?
I got this. Also,
there we go.
Doesn't everybody have a blindfold? Of course, it's a political blindfold, but you know, that works. That one's safe.
Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page. And get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.